Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bryony. On this channel what we're doing today is a bit of a deep dive, because that's what we do on a Tuesday, where I talk about an issue that is normally related kind of to the beauty industry. We do go into a lot of social issues, ethical issues, and also environmental issues here too. And sometimes I also do deep dives into kind of vegan issues, and I do want to talk about more vegan things because I know that there's definitely appetite from my last video. Getting back to that last video though, I did mention in that video that I would not tolerate hate. And that's what happened, and I do not accept hate or bullying to other people, to myself. Like, this is not that sort of space. Welcome to my house, by the way. You are on my channel, so I do get to dictate what happens. If you have an opposing view, absolutely fine. Express it in a way that isn't attacking people, please, because it's not really a good way to have a conversation. And if it gets bad enough, I am prepared to block people. I'm just putting those ground rules out there now because I know that this topic in particular is one that divides the vegan community quite a bit. So I'm just going to put across my points. If you do have comments, please wait until the end and I will see you down there as well, because I do want to have a discussion about this, because I definitely know that I've got my views on it, but everyone has a different journey in life and I'm really keen to hear yours. So let's just jump into it and create this fun look. Oh, of course, everything I've used is cruelty-free, vegan, not owned by parent companies that test on animals, and also listed down below. Once again, if you didn't know, myself and my husband have been vegan for nearly 5 years now. We're not experts, we're just average people leading average lives, and I'm just trying to have, I don't know, interesting, open conversations with you. So like I mentioned in my last vegan video, just up here, before I went vegan, I was very anti-vegan. I was kind of typified as like a Ron Swanson sort of category, if you sort of want to be able to like gauge it, you know? If you haven't seen Parks and Recreation, What Are You Doing With Your Life? It's again on Netflix and everyone should watch it. It's my favourite. I always aim to be Leslie, but I still relate quite heavily to April. If I went to a supermarket, probably in a rush, probably trying to get something for dinner, and then there were a bunch of activists blocking the meat, showing that I was murdering animals and that I was like the scum of the earth and like trying to make me feel bad, I would have been mad as all hell. Now, this is me being completely honest. I would have been so furious, because why the hell are they getting in my way? Who the hell are they to judge me about my choices when they're probably buying products that are tested on animals too? You know what I mean? It's like, it just automatically put me on like the oh, I can't say the words that I would have said, basically. If I, on the rare occasion, went out to a restaurant and then vegan protesters came into that restaurant and started calling everyone murderers, again, I would have been mad as hell, and again would have said a whole bunch of words I can't say on here. And it would have made me feel even more disjointed and more disconnected from them, because I always thought that that sort of behaviour was sort of obnoxious. And also, like, if you have got no better hobbies to do than to ruin someone's day, I was not going to be here for it. What I'm saying here is, like, the shock tactics were not effective on me, and if anything, made me mad and made me feel more disconnected from vegans that were trying to get what is ultimately a positive message across, because it was so confrontational, so judgmental, F you, basically, that it's like, why would that inspire me to want to be like you? If being vegan means that I need to go do that sort of stuff, I've got no interest in it, because I'm not about to like ruin people's days. My attitude in the past about it. Let's have a bit of a chat about why I don't really think that this kind of activism is actually effective. Not today. Protesting inside of a supermarket where people are probably trying to struggle to feed their children, trying to figure out what the hell they're going to eat that week, and also meet like a tight food budget. Or when people are out having a rare occasion, out celebrating at a restaurant. Neither of these two occasions are where people are actually going to have open minds. They won't really be open to having their minds changed when they see footage of abuse that they haven't consented to. You are putting abuse on other people who haven't asked for it, if that makes sense. It's assuming that they're going to be okay with seeing that abuse, with the fact that they may have gone through similar abuse themselves, and you're not even taking any of that into account. Ultimately, I believe it's doing more damage than it is doing good. From my perspective, if you're trying to convert people to a different way of life, storming into places where people are just trying to live their lives and like get by. You don't know what they're dealing with, judging them, calling them all of this stuff and hurling abuse at them. To me, I just don't personally think that that's really a welcoming environment to bring more people across to this sort of way of life if that's like the first impression that they may be getting. The people that are earning minimum wage in these establishments are having to deal with a situation that's far above their pay grade. So say if you're one of the people that's on the checkouts or shelf stocking or dealing with customer service or whatever, or a waiter or a bartender or something, and you're suddenly having to deal with this situation as well as trying to keep your customers happy, as well as trying to remember all of their orders and making sure that everything flows properly from the kitchen, or just the fact that working at a supermarket is a harder job than what people actually think, you're actually making these people suffer way more because they have to deal with all of these angry people, not just the group that is protesting, but all the other angry people that are having their days ruined by this. Now, I know that the argument can be said that the animals' lives are like ruined and whatever. I'm not trying to discredit that at all. We'll get to that later on. What I'm saying is these people are then shoved into a situation that they don't have training for. They've got no idea what to do. And so then you're actually getting a really negative impression, not only on the customers, but on the staff as well, in such a way that it can like cause like major anxiety and panic to people. And I don't really think that that is an impression that I personally would want to leave on people when it comes to trying to promote a vegan lifestyle. I mean, of course, like say if you do this at a restaurant or something, you'll get people taking photos of it. If you wanted the exposure, if you wanted people to start talking about it, well, there you go, you got it, because people are like posting this to news sites, but everything is done in a negative way. And people are being called extreme. Labels are being put on vegans, and then we're all lumped into this group that is attacking people and very aggressive. The only comments that you're going to get back from it is like a few vegans speaking up saying like, oh, they were doing the right thing, they should be doing this, everyone should know about like animal rights. They absolutely should, but the way that it's being done is not something that is leaving a positive impression on the general populace. To me personally, this just makes veganism seem really aggressive when it's actually meant to be about being as kind as you can. And if you had to act like this in order to be part of the group, even though it's not really a group, it's just a lifestyle choice to try and like do the least harm possible, I just personally don't really believe that it's the most sort of welcoming impression to give. It's like, this is what it means to be vegan. You stand here with a sign, go into places where you're not actually, where you have no permission to go into. I'm only on about private places when it comes to supermarkets and to restaurants here. I'm not on about exposing animal cruelty and animal abuse that's happening, say, in farms or in labs. I'm not on about that because that's something that which has been silenced for far too long, and it's really important that we support causes that actually expose what happens there and go against the laws, like choke laws, to make sure that people can't share what's actually happening in there. Okay, that's a separate issue, but basically I'm on specifically about these two issues. I'm not on about those issues which are to do with labs and animal agriculture and exposing what happens there. I'm not on about that. So let's have a look into what the science says, because you know me, I always want to see if there's some sort of science in this stuff because I find that really interesting. So I was actually really curious to see if there was anything on this, and there is, except for the fact that the latest one is from 2013, and to me, in terms of science, that is actually quite archaic. So personally, because there's so few studies that are actually done on this, I wouldn't really call this like a scientific consensus. I could only find 3 studies that were looking into this. The one from 2013 actually focuses on moral shocks and the ability of that to be able to get people to convert to a cruelty-free lifestyle, a vegan lifestyle. This paper explores moral shocks and the effectiveness of them and getting new recruits. Successful use is contextually rooted in pre-existing frameworks, ideology and identity. Basically with the conclusion that images and narratives might be misconstrued by our society. So therefore, shock value alone is not really effective unless that person already has those sorts of seeds in their minds that there's probably something wrong. And honestly, the only other ones I could find were from 1995. I couldn't access these full papers, and to be honest with you, I'm not paying huge sums of money in order to access them because I am not even earning money from this, and I don't care enough because I can pretty much guess exactly what it's going to say. The first one was on about the way that we use emotional words by animal rights people, which I think is pretty spot on. Like, a lot of us do resort to emotional words because that's a good way to communicate with people and get through to people. And then the other one was linking animal rights people to anti-nuclear people through our use of symbols and shock tactics and recruitment in that way. There's not much science here, is all I'm trying to get at. Because there wasn't much science, I looked at how to run a successful cult. Now, so stay with me here, because vegans get called a cult a lot, like we do. Even though I've never been to a meeting, I don't follow like some sort of doctrine, I don't have a book that I have to follow. Like if people try and say that the definition of veganism can be used as a doctrine, well then an entire dictionary would be used as like a Bible, because it's just providing a definition. So basically what I was thinking, if we really want to be successful about changing people's minds and getting people to be kinder to like the animals and the planet and like not destroying things as much, basically, then why would we not like try and convert people like we're starting a cult? Like that just sort of makes sense. There's a fantastic website by this person who was actually in a couple of cults, and they're like, this is how you actually run a successful cult, so here you go buddies, I'm just gonna show you the truth. So 1, validate my current observations, then offer an alternative explanation that includes it. 2, highlight my insecurities. 3, show me what I'll become if I'll follow you. 4, be willing to drop me, aka this was actually heralded by none other than Donald Trump in his Art of the Deal. And 5, really care. When I was having a look at this list, I was like, wait a second, James Aspey? Is that you? Wow. Well, I know that a lot of people already pay him money for I don't know what. There is a video that I will link down below that goes into all of the atrocities that James Aspey has done, by the way. I'm going to have to see what I can do to clear that up, oh my god. Now, I actually want to ask you, have you seen any of these tactics used? Because I definitely have, by multiple people though. Even though the fact that all of these actually just make me think about places like the Salvation Army, a place that I hate. And say for example, have you had any of these tactics used on you? How do you feel when you've had these tactics used from you as opposed to yelling at you when you're having your dinner? I'm just kind of putting it out there. If we really wanted this to be effective, we would be acting more like a cult. I mean, come on people. Of course, this is all extreme satirical sarcasm, like please don't start trying to make cults. Like I said, we don't want to be people like James Aspey, like just all freely, like we don't want you. Sorry if you can hear cat toys in the background, the cats are just having games, I'm not going to stop them. Basically, all this really comes down to is the fact that I believe that these days, with the technology that we have at our fingertips, the new scientific studies that are coming out all the time about the climate crisis that we're facing, the fact that we should be eating a more plant-based diet, the amount of resources that are coming out, more and more people are becoming vegan, and then you also have these other massive businesses that are jumping on the vegan bandwagon because they know that they can make a lot of money with it. So it's like you've got all of these things kind of going around out there, and also all of these great exposés that are happening from people like I mentioned before with the NZAVS. They're showing what happens in terms of animal experimentation, and it also comes down to the fact that we are having more and more people becoming aware of not only the massive carbon footprint of like animal agriculture, but the fact that it is so cruel, because more and more of that is being exposed. Ultimately, to me, tactics like this just feel really outdated, and like they're just not relevant to where we are in today's space, if that makes sense. And also, not to mention the fact that we've got animal rights marches that happen, which I do support. I fully support people going and protesting out in public. I think that that is very powerful. Just like I support the BLM movement that is like out in public, just like I support the people of Myanmar at the moment, even though like they're literally risking their lives right now. I really do. Far out, it's so scary what's happening over there. Separate issue, sorry, I'll get back to the topic. So ultimately, it's like, why would we think that this kind of veganism would be welcoming? To try and encourage people to reduce their meat consumption, and obviously everything to do with animal agriculture and animal use and exploitation, because it's awful. Like, we all know that, and like I mentioned in my last video, I was so angry at the start of my vegan journey. I just felt like this constant burning rage inside of me, which I still do feel a lot of the time, especially like when I see the experiments that are happening, but also we need to realize the fact that people still have to earn a living, and so sometimes we do have people that are working in jobs where they may not agree with everything that is actually happening there. Like the people that are working at these restaurants and are working at these supermarkets, they may be vegan themselves and you don't know, and then you're just making them feel worse for also representing that brand name, and then also they'll get bullied for the fact that, you know, I don't know, the fact that they also are tarred with the same brush, you know what I mean? And so then that creates divides between vegans, and I don't really think that that's what we want to have, because ultimately the thing is that, like I said before many times in this video, we're trying to create a kinder world which does less harm to animals, that is better for the environment, for the whole planet, for everyone. That's ultimately at least my goal as someone that identifies as a vegan. And also just the fact that everyone is on a different life journey, and it's really important, like I mentioned before, about intersectionality and about making sure that you're actually aware of all of the other injustices that are happening, not just in terms of animal agriculture. Vegan Abolitionist is a fantastic Instagram that you should really follow. There are other ones that are really amazing, and I'll link them down below, that you should also follow, like I did in my last vegan video as well. Now I should probably just go and say, like, what made us go vegan, what worked for us. So for me personally, I actually came across Freely's videos, would you believe? And I was like, whoa, that's like, she was a lot, very intense. Like I always understand why people are like acting the way that they do, or at least I try to understand why people are acting the way that they do. But what she was doing was absolute bullying, and then also not even giving people warnings at the fact that they're seeing abuse, which is triggering to people and therefore very inconsiderate. No matter what horribleness is going on in the world, please make sure to warn people if you're going to be talking about topics where they may have also suffered, you know? It's just a courtesy that we allow each other. So then from her videos, I actually went in to look at what actually happens to animals who are involved in animal agriculture. I wanted to know exactly what happened. I saw a lot of disgusting footage that still haunts me to this day, but that was what I wanted to look at. And then I also went down at the scientific route and had a look at the scientific consensus behind it. So that's what worked for me. So that was me being curious. That wasn't me coming across like people yelling at me. That was me actually Googling stuff. Originally it was Googling weight loss, and then of course that comes up with Freely, because that's what it was like that many years ago. She was just everywhere. Same as the high carb, low fat people. Oh my god. Now for my partner, he did not want to see anything to do with the footage. He wanted nothing to do with it. He would just shut off and be like, nah, I'm not looking at it. It wasn't gonna resonate with him because he couldn't even stomach it. So what worked for him was the scientific studies and the scientific consensus and just the evidence that is out there. So that's actually what got to him. Now, whenever I say scientific studies and the scientific consensus, I mean consensus. I mean peer-reviewed, cited, fully looked through science where there is a consensus, which is why I'm not really holding those studies from before to a high regard. Like, we need to have scientific consensus. That is so important, and there's so much of it. Like, it's just evident everywhere. So ultimately all I'm saying is, no matter what kind of activism you fall under, like, not everyone wants to go to marches. Like, I feel really intimidated by that, but there are other ways that you can get good messages out, whether it is sharing delicious recipes, sharing new products that are coming on the market, when we're able to see our friends again, sharing dishes with them, whether it is also sharing the evidence, like I said, sharing those studies via social media, whether it is also sharing the footage that is coming out there, or actually also donating to good causes. Like, there are so many ways to do activism. It doesn't have to fall into one particular camp, is all I'm getting at. Not everyone is comfortable doing everything, and the fact is that people are already drowning with their own issues at the moment, and I don't really want to go saying this is what you have to do to be able to be a good vegan. You know, it comes down to the whole gatekeeping thing, because personally I believe that attacking people creates a worse relationship and starts you off on a worse foot, as opposed to creating an environment where they may be curious. I want to spark curiosity, spark discussion. The best way that you can actually have like those convincing conversations is to ultimately think like that cult leader like I talked to you about before. Ultimately, to me, if we want more people to actually convert to having a vegan lifestyle, whether that is completely vegan or encouraging people to go plant-based, there is a difference, because vegan is a whole lifestyle, it's not just a diet. But I just think that by sparking that curiosity and by being a more approachable person, you're gonna have more people actually curious about it, as opposed to them just being like, oh, that weird vegan over there, you know. Like, oh, what are they mad about now? Oh my god, something's triggered them. You know, like when that language is used against us because we don't really want to be tarred with that brush. At least I definitely don't. Like I mentioned at the start, don't be a jerk. I will not accept bullying. I am going to be monitoring these comments heavily, but I do still want to have a discussion with you because, like, I know that veganism has evolved over the past decade, over the past 5 years even. So much has changed. Like, I've seen a lot of change in it. So I'm really curious to hear what you think about all these issues, and if you've got any, like, if you think like I do, or if you've got anything else to add, or if you don't think like I do want to hear about it, because it's like, if you have been confronted in a nasty way and then you change your life from it, I'm genuinely curious if that worked, because for me, being such a feisty person myself, when I'm confronted with something, I would not have accepted this personally. But we're all different, everyone's different, and that's the thing, different tactics work for different people. I've never made a friend with someone that was bullying me. That's all I'm saying. Thank you lovely so much for watching. I'll see you next Tuesday. Stay safe, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.